Hello Foxes and welcome to my 10 episode lore series. Today we're going to start with a timeline video that briefly describes the major events that happen in Gielinor. Next week's video will be about the gods of Gielinor, and then we're off onto kingdom specific lore videos, so make sure to turn in each week. First Age. Also known as the Age of Creation, this is the first era of the history of RuneScape. This era ended roughly 8,000 years ago, so not much is actually known other than there are two widely accepted theories, the creation theory and the Elder Dragons theory. The creation theory. It said that this is when Guthix discovered a blank pane called Gielinor and decided to shape it, bringing a bunch of different races through the world gate that he deemed worthy. Some of them are humans, dwarves, gnomes, moss giants, and many more. Guthix had personally invited the goddess Ren, who brought her elves from their homeworld, Taradad. They settled in Tirowin and built Gielinor's first city, Perfidinis. Guthix removed himself from this world and descended deeply underground to sleep, which marks the end of the First Age, wherein Guthix would sleep until the end of the God Wars. The Elder Dragons theory. This alternate theory links the life form of Gielinor with the existence of an ancient race known as Elder Dragons. So it's said that as long as the Elder Dragons live, so does Gielinor, but if they were to go extinct, Gielinor would die. Some say that the Elder Dragons could be the dragonkin that Robert the Strong annihilated, and that a small portion of dragonkin remain, which is why Gielinor still exists, though this is not a very popular theory. Many people believe it was only created to throw doubt on the theory that Gielinor was empty before the gods came. Second Age. Even though it's known as the Golden Age of Zeros, he was also overthrown by Zamorak in this age. While Guthix took his deep slumber deep beneath the earth, many other gods stepped foot onto Gielinor. Tumakin, Elidinus, Theros, Theradomin, Armadil, and Bandos brought new races, gained new followers, and claimed territory. Meeting by the river Elid, Tumakin and Elidis fell in love, married, and started a family having one son and one daughter, Iclarin and Amaskut. Theros begins creating his vast empire with the aid of his demonic and vampiric followers. On Entrana comes Theradomin, who brings the Icene and Centaurs with him. Armadil arrives and brings with him his Aventis. Tumakin decides to create four minor Menethite deities, Amakin, Frondis, Het, and Scabarus. In the northern part of the Caridian Empire, the Emir's Arena is built. The Caridian-Zerosian War also takes place in this age. The Maharat join the Menethites and turn the tide of battle because of Iclarin and Amaskut's plea. Being exposed to the violence and rituals of the Maharat, they warp Asmika into the Devourer as she is known today. The Maharat betray Iclarin and join forces with Zaros, continuing the war against the Menethites. To end the war, Tumakin sacrifices himself, which also deals a heavy blow to the Maharat, from which they never recover. After the war, a new city called Sentistan becomes the largest, most prosperous city in Gielinor, rivaling Perfidinis as the Zerosian Empire reaches its peak. Bandos arrives wanting war, bringing with him many races including goblins, hobgoblins, and ogres. Hallowvale, a Saradominus kingdom, is founded in what is now eastern Montania. Zamorak eventually finds himself in possession of the Staff of Armadil that has been lost for years. A Maharat by the name of Zamorak plots his master, Zaros' downfall. Zamorak ascends to godhood when he defeats Zeros. Third Age. This age is also known as the God Wars. It began when Zamorak, now a god, came back from banishment and began a massive war which lasted 4,000 years. The war lasted the entire Third Age, the end of which was marked by the Edicts of Guthix, which was a series of decrees that Guthix created after the war to keep balance amongst the gods. The war destroyed lots, made many races extinct, and wiped out almost all mention of Zaros. There are some other events that happened during the Third Age, like the Void Knights being established and the dwarves founding Keldagrim, but they were vastly overshadowed by the war. Zamorak returns to Gielinor as a god. Theradominus and Zamorakians attack the Zerosian Empire in an attempt to wipe out all mention of Zaros from the world. Both gnomes and dwarves go into hiding, and the dwarves establish the city of Keldagrim deep beneath the mountains. The elves retreat into Perfidinis. Hallowvale and its surrounding areas are conquered by Lord Draken, founding the land of Mortania. The Dorgashun rebel against Bandos and go into hiding. A high-ranking Zerosian Maharat named Azandra is imprisoned within the Jalharat pyramid after the fall of Zeros. Empowered by the Maharat Slisk, the six Barros brothers led a crusade into Mortania against Lord Draken. They were unstoppable until they reached the walls of Darkmire. Slisk takes back his power from them and reveals his plans, letting Lord Draken's followers slaughter them. The demons Thamaran and Balfragiath destroy the Caridian desert cities of Uzir and Ulik. Fleeing war on the main continent, Great Current is established. Katizo betrays Zamorak and steals a powerful artifact. His sister Zolcano is punished and tasked to hunt him down, but is imprisoned by the elves. Sentison, the capital of the Zerosian Empire, falls to the combined efforts of Saradominus and Zamorakians. Taranthium is founded after the Saradominists take control of Sentison from the Zamorakians. Saradomin, Armadil, and Bandos forge the God Sword to use against Zamorak. The transportation unit is attacked by Zamorakians and a huge battle breaks out in the God Wars dungeon. Orin 3 is incinerated by Zamorak, leaving it scarred and cursed, creating the wilderness. Extinction of virtually all Avancy, Icene, centaurs, light creatures, worms, white dragons, orcs, ogres, faergs, and rargs that once resided on Gielinor. Guthix and his followers wake up and retaliate against the other gods, leading to the end of the God Wars. The combatants of the God Wars dungeon are frozen in time by one of Guthix's loyal servants. The Edicts of Guthix is created after the banishment of the most powerful gods as a way to keep them out. Seren shatters herself into many crystal pieces to avoid being forced to leave after establishment of the Edicts. After touring the world to witness the destruction caused by the God Wars, Guthix is overwhelmed and his mourning manifests as the tears of Guthix. Once again, Guthix descends into the earth in a deep slumber never to be heard from again. The Fourth Age. This age was known as the Age of Mortals. It's when the surviving races began to rebuild and flourish. The dragon kin conflicts were fought. The druids built stone circles to worship Guthix during this time. At the end of the God Wars, Kadarn, under the leadership of Baxtorian, wants to expand eastward and build the mountain pass of Arundar. The elves break out, resulting in Baxtorian signing peace treaties with the gnomes to the north and human tribes east. Both have been obliterated by the God Wars. This led to a time of prosperity and peace. Scorpius made the first surviving star chart. Permanent settlements are constructed at Intrana, Falador, and across Karamja. The Kingdom of Great Current is founded by King Rada I. Avaraka, Varrock, was built. Avaraka go on to conquer neighboring tribes and form the first human nation known as Missalin. They resemble tributary states until the end of the age. Towards the middle of the Fourth Age, the Battle of Plain of Mud is fought between the 11 Goblin tribes that remain on the surface. The Kingdom of Asgarnia was founded. The government of Avaraka converted to a monarchy during this period, though the precise date is unknown. The dwarves discover that the God Wars have ended and begin to resurface. Missalin is under attack from dark creatures from Mortania, especially Avaraka. Thankfully, the River Salve was blessed by 7 priests after they defeated the dark creatures to keep any further creatures of Zamorak from crossing. The dark mage Zarek takes over Great Current and rules for 100 years before being dethroned by Burn's uprising, allowing Burn to become the new king. Towards the later end of this age, the gnomes started their migration. King Alvis dies and the consortium takes over Keldagrim. As the years go by, they become technologically advanced and prosperous. Under the consortium's leadership, the dwarves are able to develop improved methods for smelting ore as well as steam-powered boats and trains. Settlers were warned about the perils when they reached Patrodomus before crossing the River South, but paid no attention and proceeded to settle in Mortania, building Canifis, Port Phasmatus, and Frankenstein's castle. The territories eventually become ruled by the vampires, and even though Port Phasmatus has been liberated by Necrovarius, he also betrayed them, turning them all into ghosts who could not pass on to the next life. Lumbridge was founded in Missalin, with Alcourage shortly after, though they acted independently. Lumbridge has its first Church of Holy Saradomin built. The War of the Five Houses breaks out in Great Current. King Cardas I succeeds afterwards. Then the rediscovery of runecrafting led to the dominance of humans. Avaraka was renamed to Varrock. The town of Morton becomes infected with the haze from Castle Draken, turning them into disturbing shades. The Black Knights of Zamorak are established in northern Asgarnia, which leads to many conflicts with the White Knights and eventually their political overthrow and exile. The Fifth Age, also known as the Age of Man, is the current age of RuneScape. The human race has made huge strides in military, technological, theological, philosophical, political, and economic development. Discovery of magic, Year 1. According to the wise old man of Draenor, humans discovered rune essence, magic, which led to the construction of the Wizard Tower. Rise of Kandarin, Year 7. Saradominus, led by the Cerulean family, decided to remove evil influences from the area known as Ardoin. They would then create Kandarin, one of the largest nations in the world, sealing away one of Zamorak's chief agents, Haziel, during this process. Darilith's attempted destruction of Varrock, Year 19. A powerful demon named Darilith tried to destroy Varrock, but a hero named Wally used the demon-slaying sword and stopped Darilith before he was able to. The Runecrafting Crusades, Years 42 to 62. Barbarians launched a brutal campaign across northern Kandrin and Asgardia in an attempt to stop people from creating runes as they thought this should be left to the gods. By year 47, Missilin sympathizers would help them destroy the mage training arena, and by the year 62, their numbers had dwindled, so they settled in the barbarian village with the thought of amassing new strength and continuing their assault. Destruction of Encanto dwarves, approximately year 60 to 70. Barbarians invade and nearly render the Encanto dwarfs extinct, sending survivors scattered throughout Asgardia. Burning of the first Wizard's Tower, year 70. Also known as Operation Phoenix, when runecrafting was discovered, there was a Wizard's Tower built where both Zamorakian and Saradominus studied peacefully until some Zamorakians wanted power and burned the tower down, destroying unreplaceable tomes. Public outrage in Varrock ensued, which led to the discovery of the Dagon High's plans in the Tunnel of Chaos. Creation of the Tunnel of Chaos, year 70. The Dagon High, a group of Zamorakian followers, constructed a Saradomin statue outside the walls of Varrock that held the entrance to the Tunnel of Chaos. This was to be used for a ceremony to create an incarnation of Zamorak's will. A lone watchman was able to discover their plans though, and since the burning of the Wizard's Tower, both citizens and Saradominus drove them out, killing 2 of the 4 elders of the Dagon High. A third stayed back to defend the tunnel, and the 4th fled with the others. The tunnel is still around to this day. Division of Ardoin, year 136. In a tragic hunting accident, the leader of Kandrin, King Ulthus, dies. His brothers, unable to come to an agreement over who should rule, decide to divide it in half, each taking a section to be their capital. Elvarg invades Crandor, year 139. Crandor was thriving with many people a part of the Champions Guild until one day when an adventurer goes too far, descending down the volcano and waking the sleeping green dragon known as Elvarg, who then destroys Crandor. As survivors try to flee on fishing boats, they make it to Rimington and set up a camp, but Elvarg follows them and burns it down. By the end, there are only 3 survivors, all mages who used magic to escape. Thalzar, Lozar, and Melzar split up the only surviving map of Crandor. Melzar's in a castle, Lozar's on her, and Thalzar took his secret to the grave. Great Kurin changes into a republic, approximately year 150 to 159. King Kardas IV's death prompted the 5 cities to abolish the monarchy and establish a council instead. Assault of Varrock, year 154. A necromancer tries to invade Varrock, but the city guards prove superior and squish the necromancer fairly quickly. End of Nomads, year 155. Due to the chieftain's daughter being abducted, the last nomad group that still roamed the northern lands ended up settling permanently. It wasn't until 14 years later that they found out she had been murdered by the Kendall. The present year, year 169. This is the current year of RuneScape. Also, Goblin Raiders take Lozar's possessions and kill her. Thanks for tuning into my first lore video. I've had so much fun putting these together and learning about Gielinor. Come back next week to learn a little about the gods of Gielinor. Till then.